tell if that's working or not. Maybe it is or maybe it isn't. This is the third take with this because the camera keeps giving me different blinky lights. Now it looks like it's working. Howdy, I'm Grey Pilgrim. I've got a tale to tell. Back in the middle 19th century, there were a couple of brothers. The dad's name was Rufus, and the brothers were named Dan and Frank. And Rufus had an older brother, an older son, I forget, he's like 10 years older than these guys. And he was already established as a rather high-end flintlock rifle maker. So he sent the two younger boys over to his older son and had him apprentice to him. So they're learning how to make, they're learning the art of gunsmithing. Well, after a while, they decided, hey, this is pretty good. That was in the Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts. And that area, by the way, was very well known as a center for industry and specifically gun making. Springfield, I mean, George Washington had established an arsenal there to supply the Continental Army. And it just grew from there because Connecticut flowed by at a strong enough current that you could put in a mill and run machinery. And that's what you needed. Well, meanwhile, Eli Whitney had developed this interchangeable parts idea, and everybody in the Springfield area and the Connecticut Valley thought, hey, this is a pretty good idea for everything from cotton gins to making garments, you know, the wool fabrics and stuff, markets, to guns. So they started doing that too. And in Europe, it became known as the American system, interchangeable parts. Well, meanwhile, here's Frank and Dan, and they've basically graduated from their apprenticeship as journeymen, and they head back into Springfield. And Frank ran into an old buddy. His buddy's name was Nathan Richardson. And Nathan Richardson, well, actually, Dan and Frank, and I think they had a younger brother also named Rufus, but he wasn't into gun making. Well, anyway, Dan and Frank, well, first of all, Frank had developed this. This was his very first, this is an 1854 Frank Wesson pistol. It's a top break, single shot, 22 short, or as it was called, the 22. It was just the only 22, because at the time it came out, it was the 22. Matter of fact, I have some. These are, at least the ones on this side, are real 19th century 22 shorts. They're in black powder. These are all the rest are in smokeless, but these four are in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, 6, there's 7 of them, are in black powder. And they're sort of a heirloom of mine. Well, Frank also designed this, and this was just in time for the Civil War. This is a extremely heavy barrel. It's an extremely heavy barrel. 32 rimfire, break open like this. He was enamored of break opens like this, so he did it with a rifle. The way it works is it has these two triggers. You put it into half cock, then pull the top trigger and crack it open. Put in your shell, close it, and then cock it and fire. And it's a 32 rimfire. Incidentally, some bullets from this kind of gun were actually found at the Battle of the Little Bighorn. Just a little trivia for you there. This is a second model. I know it's a second model because of the placement of this gizmo right here. This is a gizmo that basically, when you cock it and crack it open, keeps the barrel from moving any further than this. This, on the original one, was on this side, and this thing was not there. This is a extractor, so, because the 32 rimfires were very prone to sticking in the chamber. Anyway, by the way, this is not Frank Wesson, but this is a 32 rimfire pistol. Hey, what is this? Hopkins and Allen that is in 32 rimfire. Just for giggles, these are 32 rimfires here. Well, anyway, back to the story. Nathan Richardson, he was a buddy of Dan Wesson's and Frank's, and he came over to their house one day because these guys all lived in the Connecticut Valley, and they were all in the gunsmithing trade. And Nathan took one look at their sister, and he became smitten. Well, they ended up getting married, and one of Nathan's, well, first of all, Nathan invested some money in Frank. Meanwhile, Dan had gone off and met a fellow named Horace Smith, and together they formed Smith and Wesson. Yeah, that's the last name, is Wesson. And Frank, on the other hand, he was not part of that enterprise, but he was a gunsmith, and he developed guns like this single shot. We also developed this. This is a small, 1872, I think it was, the Smith & Wesson had the bore-through cylinder patent, and it ran out then. And I happen to know this is marked Harrington and Wesson, which means that this is when Nathan Harrington, or either Nathan, see, the thing is his nephew Gilbert later got in on the deal. And then Nathan went off and he met a guy by the name of, what was Nathan's buddy? No, it wasn't Nathan. It was Gilbert, who ran around and found a fellow by the name of, I think it was Henry or something like that, Richardson. And they formed, what was it, Harrington and Richardson, or H&R, as we've known them. They were together from about 1874 until, technically, until about 1986. I mean, it was a long-lasting company. Well, before that, Gilbert was a partner with Frank Wesson, and he liked this, so he bought the patent rights to this from Frank, and H&R then made it. But this Frank first patented this in 1871 and sold the patent rights to Gil in 1874. And this one, therefore, was made sometime between 1871 and 1874. And this is a 22 short rimfire, black powder only. And the reason it's black powder only is the metal it's made from is just not strong enough for a modern smokeless powder. So you only shoot black powder out of it. And it has some interesting features to it, but it's just a cool little pistol, I think. And I think, yeah, you can pull out the cylinder this way, like that. It's a, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a 7-shot. 7-shot black powder. And interesting little pistol. Anyway, the thing is that Smith & Wesson, H&R, Hopkins and Allen, these are all companies from the Connecticut River Valley. They all started there. They all had their mills there. They all set up there. Heck, Colt set up there. Hartford, Connecticut is right there on the Connecticut River. You know, he did it the same thing. He started a mill and set up a business. You know, so it's a pity, though, because Massachusetts Connecticut and Massachusetts were a wonderful place to do the gun business. And now they've banned them over there to the point where everybody from Smith to, well, all the companies have just basically moved out. They're no longer there. There's museums there, but the actual companies that started the Industrial Revolution in America have all left Massachusetts. And it's sad for the people of Massachusetts, I think. But this is one of my absolute joys to own. I picked this up at a local gun store, and I thought, I know what that is. And then sometime after that, I found this there, too. This is an 1854 Frank Wesson. This one's probably about the same vintage. I know they made them just before the Civil War, and they were used a lot by as cavalry carbines, but mainly by state auxiliaries, not by or state militias, not by the federal government. You know, the feds usually they would hire up, 27th Volunteers of New York, or somebody from Illinois or Missouri or wherever. But these were all under the auspices, the officers and everything else of their own state organizations. It's not that way now. Nowadays, people are they're under the Army, and the Pentagon. Centralization. Anyway, interesting side note in history. By the way, I bought this pistol basically to get these rounds. I wanted the rounds for this rifle, but the guy had these and this for sale at his booth at a gun show. This I bought ages ago. This is a box of actual 32 shorts, 32 rimfire shorts. These are 32, I don't know, these. Yeah, that's 32 long. It ain't very long. But if you look, you can tell the shells these are rimfire shells, but they're more copper than they are brass. And if you shoot them, they do have a tendency to stick in the chamber. So that was a problem in the early days. Quite a problem. Anyway, it's the tale of Smith & Wesson and Harrington and Richards. Just a thought. Happy trails.